So I figured while I'm waiting for my first video to upload, I would do another video, which is really technically my first, and I'm almost done with my cupcake, which is the whole premise of this thing was to eat a cupcake while like espousing about my thoughts on life and gained wisdom and insight at 33 years old, which is considered a baby when you think about it compared to people who are like 80 or 90. But and the funniest thing is, this is where, which I need to figure out how the heck to like address, but procrastination is like one of my biggest things that I need to tackle, I guess, because I have like a pile of dishes in the sink that I don't want to do. I think what I found out is that the most mundane and tedious tasks are the ones that I try to put off. But if I really like something, then I'll do it, especially if it involves like colors. Like one of my favorite things to do is like every month my calendar, I update, which, let me unplug this, my calendar, which is this, right? I do that every month, basically. I'm gonna repeat well, it's not that much, it's really just more like, I don't really have that much going on, so, but it's still fun to do. My point is like when things involve, I guess, I don't know, when they're fun, it means I want to do them, and when they're not fun, I don't want to do it. So, go figure. But, which I don't know how far along my, no, wait, go back. Where is it? Oh, 38%. Before it uploaded so fast, I don't know why it's taking forever to upload. But okay. I'm new to this whole video uploading YouTube thing. I'm used to being a consumer and watching it. I'm not used to like doing it. So I figured the topic, the whole idea was, I don't really have coffee, I have tea with my pink cup. Pink is a really feminine color. Very like coquettish and girly, which is fine. I am a girly girl. Sometimes I can be a tomboy, is that the right word? It depends on my mood. If I'm working out, then I'll go and I'll wear all black and like, I look like a ninja. But generally speaking, pastel and flowers are like my go-to. But let's see what the topic is. But the point is to basically, I'd be drinking coffee, which I don't have my coffee, but I wanted tea. So I'd be having, what's it called? My café con leche, which is Cuban coffee, which is what I explained in my intro video. And then I'd be having tea. Oh, that's right. I'd be starting off with my breathing exercise. with my collapsible sphere. But so today is, I don't know when this is going to upload. Maybe I'll upload it today. So today is, oh my god, I was going to say September. April 5th. Saturday, April 5th. And it's 5:33 p.m. I know like when people upload videos, sometimes they do the video, then they upload it. But I'm going to try to do it very consistently. I hope I can help somebody. That's the whole premise. Oh, excuse me. And I would also, I think, one thing I realized is that I think there's beauty in something that's organic and raw and not staged or scripted, meaning like, I think a lot of what we see nowadays, I'm not saying in life, just in general, even reality TV, there's a sense of it being scripted, right? Where they're given like maybe a baseline like idea of the premise or the summary of the episode, and then they're like, okay, you guys do it, whatever, and then they get the most interesting cast of characters, right? Because that's entertaining, that's watchable. I don't consider myself, I don't think I'm entertaining. I do think I come with life experiences that are relatable, which I'm going to actually put the heater on because it's kind of cold right now. Okay. Hello, baby. Ow, my knee. I'm very clumsy as well. I don't know why. They always say, when I did dance growing up, they always say that dancers are very clumsy. So, and I think that is true. Um, so what was I gonna say? But yeah, so I think I'm gonna try to go about it. I'm not gonna really have like a script or anything that I'd want to say per se. It's more so just, I think, raw, organic thoughts that I have on certain things that I've wanted to share with the world, but have been reluctant or more reticent to not do. Um, and I literally have a bunch of random topics that I wanted to call it the Let's Talk series. And the reason why they came up with that, there's a song by Kendrick Lamar, uh, All the Stars from Wakanda. What's it called? Not Wakanda, oh my god. Black Panther. And he said, let's talk about, there's a lyric that says, let's talk. And I figured that's where I got the idea. I was like, I think there needs to be like more conversation about things that people don't want to talk about, and or they shy away from. And I always told myself, if I was younger, to look up to just highlight certain things, like a role model, like even if it was a virtual role model. I really didn't have that. My role models were Britney Spears, because that's what I grew up listening to, NSYNC, Christina Aguilera, 3LW. It was music, basically, and I didn't even understand what I was listening to, even when I was listening to it. Like, it's not until later on in life I heard some of the lyrics, like what Britney Spears would sing, and I'm like, oh my god, I was 11 years old or 12 years old dancing in the bathroom to a song about, promiscuity and sleeping with different men, and I didn't even know that. And yes, I do have a giant pimple on my, I tend to get, I think it's called cystic acne. It's not cystic acne, it's hormonal. So, which from what I understand, when it's hormonal, it's all in the chin, but I use my little pimple patches. Shout out to Mighty Patches, which is no way a spokesperson. I just like using them. But they actually do really work. I'm such a fan of hydrocolloid bandages, because they suck all like the oil and the sebum from your skin. So yeah, which I'm not going to shy away from. We're all human, we're all normal, and I'm not going to try to be glamorous. Like, you see some of these, like there was an ad for a woman who created her own shoe company where it's like the shoe turns from like a heel to a flat, which is like so ingenious. Like, kudos to her. And it's so cool to see that, like, a woman owned, that she's like a small business, but it's just, if I had more money, I would definitely buy her one of the pairs of shoes, but I don't. Unfortunately, I don't have the funds right now, but I would. And but my point is, she was very like, her video, like, some people you could tell they go all out and they have the lighting and they have the glamour. I mean, she was like naturally gorgeous, and yeah, but I don't. This is, I don't really have any like glamorous clothing. My dog crate is in the back with a one box for moving. That's going to be my motivation to try to move, because I want to move to another city. But actually, I would love to move out of the United States. To be honest, even though I have no clue what it's like abroad, but that would be. I don't even know if it's safe for me to do that, but I have one motivation, which is, like, I have my one box in the corner. But my point is, I'm not going to try to be someone that I'm not. I'm going to be very real and authentic. Even though I do wear makeup, I do like makeup. Maybe one day I won't. I was considering doing a video of me with no makeup, just like how Pamela Anderson does, because we live in a very glitzy, glamorous society. If you don't look a certain way, if you don't, if you're not deemed attractive, then you are in the pits, which is really sad. And I was watching a video yesterday about these. It was actually a really good, like, very powerful video. Which maybe that will be the topic, is about staying. That was one of the topics, about getting older, like how to grow up without growing older. Which maybe that's what I'll do. That'll be today's topic. Let's talk about growing up without growing older. That's exciting. But in lieu of that, but to go back, there was this video on Instagram with this girl that has Down syndrome, and she's like, I think the tagline was like, deal with it, because people have this misunderstanding of what people with like Down syndrome, because their face is has, I don't want to say abnormalities, I hate saying that word, because then it just makes you feel deficient, right? Like, if someone described me, like, let's say I had autism and someone was like, oh, she's neurologically deficient, that would be like, I would feel different from what the typical, like the neurotypical person would be like. So I wish people wouldn't like is the word objectify or categorize people based on their like aptitude or like their attractiveness or their, you know, I know we live in a society where everything is labeled and whatnot, but it was just cool to see that, you know, this girl with Down syndrome and this boy that had it too, they were just like, you know, deal with it. But anyways, so I will start off with my breathing exercise, which is my with my sphere. And you know, you breathe in. That was a good first one, but or maybe I'll try without it. I just do this because it's, you know, for kids and stuff, even though this is really not a kids channel, but but talking about being kid friendly, right? There's also another exercise that I have when I taught kids yoga. I made these like sensory jars. So actually it's called a calm down jar, and it has a bunch of glitter in it. And I did this many years ago with these kids. I lived in Miami, and you're supposed to breathe for however long it takes for the glitter to go down. So the glitter is essentially supposed to be your thoughts, and when your mind is settled, the glitter settles, and you have a still mind. It's kind of like a therapeutic recreation activity. So, see, now I feel hot. I literally just put the heater on. Now I go from cold to hot, and I have the thing on, which I need to focus because I lose my focus so easily. But anyways, okay. But I am sweating now, which I might need to fix the heater. Anyways, I'm gonna deal with it. Just like the girl said, deal with it. I'm gonna deal with it. So yeah, maybe we'll just watch this and just you breathe until it's supposed to also be really like stimulating, like engaging, because you see all the little glitter sparkles. I bet you with the color pink it would be even cuter. I don't know why I chose purple at the time, and I'm surprised. So this is actually a mixture of like glitter glue, clear glue, water, like hot water. See the little bubbles, and it stayed with me this entire time. Like, it's amazing. This has lasted so long. So anyways, we'll move that there. And I have other cards too, but they're more like kids yoga breathing cards, but you never know. As adults, I think we can all benefit from doing that stuff. So today's topic will be, it'd be really funny I do all this and like no one watches it, but I'm not doing it for the sake of anyone, you know, watching stuff. Even if I just get one person where I'm like, okay, I inspire one person, that would be great. And the reason why, so let's talk about growing up without growing older. Which is going to be different than the one about adulting. I think that's a whole nother topic of conversation, which I don't know if I need to move this like this. That works. Growing up without growing older. Which I kind of mentioned in my intro video, I think. There was a magnet that I had growing up. My dad loved that magnet, and it said, "The trick is to grow up without growing older." And I remember I had this table lamp that was like a movable table lamp. This light is, there we go. And the arm of it, like I remember I put the magnet, we took it off my fridge, and once I got older, I put it on my lamp in my room. And, you know, when you reach a certain age, and I might turn the heater off because now I feel hot. Hold on. Oh my goodness gracious. Sweet Jesus. Ugh. Body homeostasis. Temperature regulation is off. Sorry, babe, I don't mean to. Bonnie, my dog Bonnie, is sitting right behind me. She loves to sit with me. That's her pee-pee pad. And then her crate, she doesn't really go in. Hi, baby. What are you doing? Are you hanging out? She's not feeling too well. I'm kind of nervous that she might have something really critical that I know all dogs eventually they end up getting, and I'm realistic about that, and I knew adopting a dog would come with that, so I'm trying to mentally prepare myself for that, because she's kind of like my soul dog, as is everyone's dog. But what was I gonna say? Okay. Oh, that was to say, when you grow up, so growing up without growing older, I think I've gotten pretty good at this. You will be ridiculed. You will be looked at as immature. You'll be looked at as, because there's something called, I don't know if it's called Peter Pan syndrome. I don't know if that's legitimate, so you can't take my word for that. But I do think that And also it could be because maybe we literally went to Disney World so much, like growing up, that like, and Disney is supposed to be what, the happiest place on earth, right? You're bombarded with like colors and songs and happiness and whatever, and then, you know, that's not the real world. Obviously, it's, no pun intended, a fantasy land, right? You're fed this idea, but it's also, I don't know, Disney kind of, Walt Disney was this person that, I don't know, for him, I think it was very, the sky's the limit, and he took the what's it called, the blinders off of like what's possible, you know. And I think he really did feel that like what you think and what you dream, you can become, and to never let, like, if there's something in your heart that you want to see come to fruition, you owe it to yourself. It's not going to come if you sit on your couch and not do it, but if you try, you know, you'll get there. But I'm someone that, you know, I've noticed, and again, maybe it's the Disney thing, but there's also a lot of people who grew up going to Disney who are, you know, they're not like, they're adults and they're whatever, but I think, and it's interesting when you talk about energy and the people I gravitate towards, even in dating, like, it's funny because I attract people, the people that I get attracted to are probably like the complete opposite of like who I am, and I'm very bubbly, and once I really open up to someone, I'm very bubbly and like exuberant, and I tend to, like, I go for sometimes like it depends, I go for sometimes the more like alpha male, like, you know, like I'm macho, whatever, then I'll also give a chance to the guy who's maybe more shy and reticent and more creative and artistic. It'd be nice to meet a guy who's like in the middle, you know, but that's a topic for a whole nother day. But yeah, growing up without growing older, it's interesting because what I say, you know, in terms of, people can sometimes look at it and be like, if they look at me, right, perfect example, oh, she's socially delayed, she's socially and emotionally delayed, or that's what I would assume. I can't, you know, say read people's minds, but I'm pretty good at feeling their energy and their thoughts to an extent, or like reading people. I'm very good about in that. In another life, I could have been a forensic, what's it called? The criminal profilers, that thing. But I don't want to do that. But yeah, I think, I almost lost my train of thought there, but for me, I think if someone, once they really get to know me and they were around me, and I would say, not, I can't say I dated a lot of people, but in recent months, I've had a few people that have come through my door. It almost seems like a revolving door, and I can't really say, would I say their energy matched mine? Probably not. You know, there's a certain point as an adult, I think we're afraid to play. We're afraid to be silly for the fear of being scrutinized or deemed immature. It reminds me, there's a movie that comes to mind. There's a movie with Tom Hanks called Big. And I think, if I remember correctly, he's like 13 or something, or 12. He's a young boy, like I think in New York. I don't know if it's Staten Island or Long Island. And he wishes to be older. Like, he goes to this arcade game or something, and this, like, it looks like a magician wizard in, like, a glass case. And, like, you ask a question, you make a wish or something. And then I remember the machine would, like, open his mouth, like, open and close. And it was at, you know, it was like at a boardwalk. No, he wasn't at it was at a boardwalk. And then the thing opened and closed its mouth. And then he wakes up the next day and he's an adult. Right? And it's interesting because when you're a kid, you kind of look and you're like, oh my God, I can't wait to be an adult. I remember when I was little, there were moments, I remember when I was like in elementary school and I looked at the upperclassmen and I was like, oh my God, I can't wait till I'm in 8th grade. You know, I can't wait till I get to wear the cute, you know, skirt, the uniform skirt that's shorter, and, you know, I can do what I want. I don't have to, like, listen to my parents. Like, there were moments where I thought of that, where I'm like, oh my God, I can try to wear lipstick one day. And then, you know, you're an adult and you're like, you go back and you're like, man, I wish I was a kid. You know, you always, it's like the grass is greener on the other side kind of thing. And I don't know, just now it's like, you know, if someone, and I feel kind of, I tell myself there are other people out there like me, because I've seen on Instagram, there's girls, there's like teachers who teach online, like young women who teach kids online, and they, like one girl decorated, she has this cute glitter laptop for a case, and then she had like it all organized, which I need to get on that, because I think it would be really fun to do. I don't know if I'd be hired in it, I don't know really how it works, but I have the certification to do, like, not the certification, I was in the process of doing that, but then procrastination hits, and then you don't want to do it. Or trauma. It could be both, because I have been through trauma, and I think the trauma exacerbates the procrastination, right? Because sometimes you just want to be a blob and, like, sit on your bed and, like, not do anything, because it takes less effort, right? It takes effort. You get up, put your clothes on, do dishes, mop the floors, sweep the floor, organize the house. Those are all things that, which now I've realized at the end of the day, they do contribute to your mental health to an extent, because once you have a clean home, it's like, it's almost a representation of your mind. When your mind is busy, when your heart is aching, or when you feel tense and stressed, your home is going to be a representation of that, right? So it's kind of like, I do like it when everything's clean. But anyways, going back to what I said, so I tend to go off on a tangent and things, so I apologize. But there's in the movie Big, he grows up and he's like in an adult body, but he's still a kid. He has this consciousness like he's a kid, but he's an adult in an adult body. And I feel like sometimes, you know, when you look at child development, when you look at this development period, you know, the scales of development, like how we develop, if you're not well versed in that, you know, there's certain periods, like cognitive development, psychosocial development, socio-emotional development. And, you know, once you read, there's the concrete operational stage, there's the abstract stage, because I am going to throw theory into there, because I got my master's in developmental psychology, and it was all just, it's really interesting to me, the way we develop and the way we grow, and how our perception of the world changes based on the knowledge we acquire and the experiences we have, right? And how our brain, like, assimilates that information and synthesizes it. But, you know, there's certain stages, literally, like scientifically, you can literally, like, you can see someone and say, hey, they're in this stage of development, or hey, they're at this peak. And you always wonder, can someone be at a certain level of development cognitively but be deficient? I hate to say deficient, but on a lower scale socially? Maybe, possibly. You know, there's kids that you look at them that they're savants, right? Kids that are on the spectrum, you know, they have their cognitive skills, like they may be a piano prodigy or the next Mozart, but socially, emotionally, they have poor emotional self-regulation. They lack impulse control. They may not be able to, they don't know social norms or social cues or how to act in a specific social setting. So the reason why I bring this up, which I'm going to turn my phone over here so I don't get distracted by it, is that the movie Big is a good depiction of that, because he's physically, developmentally, he's an adult, right? He looks like he's an adult, but then he has the consciousness or the cognitive capabilities of a 12-year-old or a 10-year-old. I forgot exactly how old in the movie, like, the character Tom Hanks was supposed to be, but he played that really well, right? Even his speech, I think I remember his, I don't know if it's reactivity, what's it called when you're able to output, like, there was more of like a pause and a delay in that, the way he spoke, and just his mannerisms and his curiosities, right? And I see that, I haven't seen that movie recently, but I just remember it came across my banner once when I had the TV on, like on my Roku, because I have Roku TV, and it popped up on my banner. And I would say that sometimes, and I don't mind sharing this, I feel like there's a song by Frank Sinatra called Young at Heart. And I am like that, because, you know, the things that interest me, like, there's some people that are adults that, like, they want to get blasted drunk on a weekend and go party. And I'm not going to say that I won't be opposed to going to a club, because, like, I've been, when I went to Las Vegas, and it's funny, clubbing itself, I'm not really big on the culture, because I think drugs, ecstasy, coke, all that stuff is kind of mixed in with that world. But I got into EDM music because of my brother, because he was into that dance, house, trance, electronic, whatever. And I got really, like, Kygo, Zed. Zed was really big at one point. Audi and Tiesto, Avicii, may he rest in peace, or Tim Berg, right? Really, like, big name DJs, David Guetta, all the, who else? There's a few. I'm sure there's a bunch more. I have a whole, like, playlist dedicated to EDM music. See, I got off track again. But there's a point for that. Oh, because clubbing. So, I wouldn't be opposed. So clubbing is a very adult activity, right? You go to a nightclub, you're dancing, but there's also the drug culture that comes with that, which I'm not really into, but I do appreciate the music, right? So there's activities that adults would do that I'd be like, yeah, but I'm not someone, I don't like to go out. Like, the most drinking I will ever do is, um, like, if I'm cooking and I make pasta, or like if I do chicken marsala and I want to have a really good red wine with that, um, I would do that. Um, but generally speaking, I don't drink to get drunk. I drink, like, and usually it's wine. I do know how to make cocktails and stuff, so I am kind of I am an adult in like that sense. But um, there are things that where I still feel like, maybe that more like children, that maybe children gravitate, like animals interest me more than, and I know that there's people that are like into animals. Like there was a page where I think it was Robert Irwin, is that his name? Steve Irwin's son. Like there was, like, he's an, but that's his profession though. Like, I mean, so it might be more accepted, but being like a 33-year-old woman who likes, I don't know, I feel like I resonate more with animals sometimes than I do people. So, and if you tell that to someone who doesn't care about animals, they're going to be like, oh my God, you're such a child, Like if I'm walking Bonnie and I see a squirrel, I get so excited. Or if I see a blue jay or like a cardinal, I'm more excited about that than the person walking across, like in front of me, or past me. I'll smile at the person, but I care more about the squirrel that's like running around on the floor. But that's just me, and someone might see that and be like, oh, she's such a baby, she's such a child. And I'm like, well, no, I'm in touch with my heart. That's who I am. But how do you stay young? I think it's, when you're growing up, there's certain things that ignite your passions. Like some people are really into Legos, maybe there's some guys out there who are into building Legos. Maybe there's some people who are baseball card collectors. Maybe you're into Pokemon. Was like huge when I was growing up. And then I think Pokemon Go came out, and that was big. Everyone was like on a street. I will never forget in Miami, you used to find people like on random street corners huddled together and having like Pokemon Go parties. It was hilarious. But like, okay, so a good example is like me, like who would have, I'm 33 and I have like a mouse pad that says the things, oh look, well, the things that make me different are the things that make me me, which is true. And it's like a little character, which versus like, having, I don't know, like an abstract painting of some sort, or like just a plain old like mouse pad. I'm like, this brings me joy, this brings me happiness when I see it. And that's why I am the way I am. And some people will like that, some people won't. But I think the trick to grow up without growing older is staying in touch with your inner child, where you gravitate towards the things that you loved as a kid that make you happy, but you still balance out the adult responsibilities, if that makes sense. So you don't shy away from, like me, I need to get better because I think, and I know growing up, I lived at home until I was I moved out of the house when I was it 28 or 27? I don't remember. I was either 27, 28, I think, and I lived in Coral Gables, and I moved out because of the pandemic, and I moved back home, and then I was back home still. It was like 29, so technically I was really old compared to some people who, like, they go to college and that could be a contributing factor too, maybe, because when you're at home, you're essentially, which maybe that's another topic for discussion, you're essentially an adult child, which means that you live under your parents' roof and you're at the behest of their discretion, right? Because it's their house, right? You're not paying rent, they're paying rent, or they're paying a mortgage, and you're like not mooching, but you're living in their home, you're living under their roof. So you're at the behest of whatever they say or do, right? So I did live at home for a good majority of my life, and there comes a certain time when you do become an adult, and some people leave for college at like 18, right? You go to college, it's your first step out into being independent in the adult world. I didn't really have that. So my situation is really unique in that respect. Which, let me take a sip of my tea. This is really good tea. It's probably terrible for you because there's a lot of sugar in it, but it's so good. And I realized, which again, I'm going on my side tangent, but Or a side note for anyone that likes tea, citric acid is, that's what causes like the esophageal irritation. So I'm someone who can't really drink citric acid tea or anything with citric acid for that matter, because it'll irritate me. But going back to what I was saying, um, like I said, I had a really unique situation because I lived at home for a good majority of my life. So, and I wouldn't say that that's probably healthy, to be honest. Um, I feel very fortunate, my mother, she did, did all of like the laundry. They did all the, my parents were together. I don't know if they still are, but I'm not as close to them as I was before, just for specific reasons. But growing up, they did the laundry for us. They did the cooking, everything. The only responsibility I had was on Wednesdays. I cleaned the floors. I would Swiffer sweep them, and that was it. And then I felt very fortunate. We grew up with someone who would clean our home. Like, I really did have, like, a cushy life. Like, I really, really did. And I realize some people, they can't. And I don't want to try to relate to or empathize with somebody that may have had grown up in different circumstances than me, that they didn't have all those things. I did grow up, like, in an upper middle class family. Coral Gables was a very affluent neighborhood. So I recognize that some people didn't have that luxury. Like, they didn't have a cleaning lady come and. But we considered her more than a cleaning lady. She was like a friend to the family, basically. Like, and she treated me with much kindness and respect. But yeah, so the purpose of me saying this is kind of just to give a background, kind of like, how did I continue to maintain that innocence, or that, and I don't want to say I'm not as innocent as I was before. I've experienced a lot more, and I can get really hardcore. If someone pisses me off enough, I can curse them. I seem really nice, but I can curse them the F out. Like, if something pisses me off enough, especially, so my biggest pet peeves, dishonesty, lacking authenticity, people who don't take accountability, people who gaslight and manipulate, or lack integrity. Those are like if anyone demonstrates that, I don't care who they are, what they do for a living, I don't care if they're the richest person in the world or the most powerful person in the world, if you do any of those things and you're dishonest or shady or shitty in any way, I can curse someone out. I can go from like super nice to being super like me, like, just because it pisses me off that much. But anyways, how I maintain my child, that sense of like youth and vitality, is I gravitate towards the things that bring me happiness and joy. And what are those things? Which might seem silly to some people, which is why I say the things that interest me may not interest other people. But like pens, I love pens. I don't know why, but I love pens. I love my pencil case. I literally have highlighters in all different colors. This is one of my biggest, like, you can get, like, my pride and joy is this. I forgot when I got these. Like, I remember growing up when they used to ask me, what do you want for your birthday? And I used to say, oh, I want a gift card to Office Max or CVS, because then I would be able to buy, like, I have my cute little pens, my pink pen, my glitter pencil, right? And I don't know if this is good. I think there's other girly girls out there who would probably say my other glitter pens. This one. I have this cute little whiteout this brings me so much joy. This little tiny little thing brings me so much joy. Pencils. Oh my god. I have such a thing for I love, there's this, I don't know if this is called OCD, but like the Dixon Ticonderoga pencils. So I don't know why, but there's certain ones with like the eraser feels really smooth, or like the way it writes, like, this is really nice pencil. I love this. Is one of my favorite glitter. Like, they have these on Amazon. This is really cute. So like these little things, just like little things like that, these bring me joy, right? And whereas another woman might be more into, like, I don't know, high fashion, getting her eyebrows tinted, or I know there's women, like, you can literally tattoo your eyebrows on your face, or like eyeliner. I don't know. There's all these different things that people do nowadays. But another thing, so notebooks. I probably used to collect way too many notebooks. I got this one on Amazon. I could be like a spokesperson for Amazon. But I got this on Amazon. What else brings me joy? Stickers. I love stickers. I literally, my whole laptop is like covered in stickers. I don't know why, but I love stickers. Phone cases. So whenever I would get a new iPhone, this is my phone case now, and pop sockets. I was obsessed with pop sockets. So like little flowers and cute stuff. So when people say, how do you stay young, or being young at heart, I think is, I don't know, it's the things that bring, now, someone else might enjoy having a pet snake and feeding rats to it, which I'm not really too big on, but you know, if that's what you had as a kid growing up and that's what makes you happy, then I guess more power to you. I'm not really going to align with that, but it's whatever brings, I think, whatever brings you joy, right? And peace and joy are such powerful emotions, right? When you talk about, I remember when I worked at this job at my local pediatric hospital back in Miami, I had one of the best orientation trainings. Like, the top orientation trainings I've had to date are, was it Press Ganey? I forgot what the company was that sponsored. They basically, so they hired a company to facilitate their workplace training because they wanted to really develop emotionally intelligent, coherent individuals. That I assume that they found like studies that like showed the correlation between productivity and emotion, right? Mood and emotion. There's probably a strong correlation there, which is true because when you're happier, you do better. You produce better results. When you're depressed or angry or frustrated, you're more likely to sit and gloat and be resentful. So they probably wanted to just really amp up, like, they wanted really like emotionally intelligent individuals to work in their company. Best, I think it was, I don't know if it was, how many days it was, but it was at, so the offices in Miami, there's this office called Blue Lagoon Drive, and I remember they were situated there, and this is before, so I had worked at this company, at this hospital from 2015 to 2017, no, sorry, 2014 to 2017, because I got promoted within there, and then there was, I went back, I was rehired like in 2022, but this was back in 2014, 2015. Literally one of the best trainings I've ever had in my life. And they talked about emotions, and there's a point of why I'm saying all this, but you know, they were very good about like helping people decipher and discern where they were on the, I think they called it the emotions elevator, and they had like in red all of like the more negative emotions, and then as you went up the scale they had the more positive emotions. And I remember I'm pretty sure I probably have the card with me still. It's a little like, it almost looks like an ID card, and I remember I kept that on my mirror. They don't know that, but I kept that little card on my mirror even after I left the company. So that training, and then another training I did this was last year in December for a company that was like for basically you're a sales representative for this like large scale tutoring company, and literally probably the best training I've had. I didn't stay with the company, but best training I've had. Like, if anyone wasn't even interested in sales, I would still say like do that training, because it was so good, and the people who facilitated it was like chef's kiss. It's kind of like, you know, especially it didn't work out, but like, you know, and that was because I'm not really, I like selling to people, but I'm not big on the competitive aspects of it. I care more about the experience, right? I'm not really too focused about me competing against I would say my predecessors or my cohort, but more so like I'm more about like building a relationship with a client and like gaining their trust and building a sense of rapport than like, I'm not going to be like, oh, Veronica has 2 sales and I have 1, because my sale could be like bigger and a bigger account than hers. So I don't really go by quantity, I go by quality, but that's another thing for another day. But anyways, the reason why I tie back the emotions elevator and the trainings and stuff is because when you're a kid and there's things that interest you, like I remember watching early morning cartoons. I remember because like when I was healing from trauma that I went through the past few years, I remember I was on YouTube and I found Scooby-Doo cartoons, I found Avengers cartoons, which was pretty cool. Like literally like the Marvel Avengers, but they were in cartoon form. And then I found, what was it? Was it Snoopy? I don't know. It was something. Was it Transformers? I don't know. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna put this on. And I'm like, yes, I'm an adult. I'm like, but who's watching me? Like, it doesn't matter. I'm in my own home. And I remember I put it on for Bonnie, my dog Bonnie, and I, who is now almost, is she sleeping? Are you sleeping? I really hope Bonnie gets better. I'm realistic. I'm optimistic, but I'm also realistic. Her lymph nodes are really swollen. And the diagnosis that the first people gave her, they said that the test was negative for a fungal infection. But maybe she got bitten by something, or it could be something more serious. I don't know. But I'm just going to be grateful for having her here with me, and I'm going to do the best I can. But anyways, so yeah, I put on those cartoons, and I go, oh my gosh, and it was just fun, you know? It was lighthearted. It was fun to watch those cartoons. And would another woman who's 33, 34, would she be doing that? Maybe not. Maybe? I don't know. There was one lady I used to watch when I was watching tarot cards and readers online and stuff, because I used to do that really avidly. I don't really do that anymore, because I realized, I was like, I don't think some of them were as authentic as they claim to be. You know, because some people, they go on YouTube and they just put stuff out there because they want to, like, get views or whatever, but it's like, you know, fake psychics are, like, not what I'm not looking to watch. But anyways, there was one lady who did say she used to watch Arthur. She said, I remember she used to watch a show called Arthur, and she used to watch Hey Arnold, I think, Hey Arnold, Rugrats, and she had no shame in saying it, and I'm like, wow, this woman, and she's older than me. I was like, man, this is pretty cool. I was like, you know, so, you know, I don't really feel bad for her anymore. Is it good for dating? Probably not, unless, that's why I say maybe I haven't matched with anyone well yet, because they themselves maybe aren't, maybe, you know, especially for men, they have it tough too, because they have to put on this air and bravado. Like, imagine you have like Steph Curry, or there's like a basketball player who's super famous, and then you find out that they're like, you know, they float in a kiddie pool at night. Like, not a kiddie pool, like, you know, they like to lay on a silly looking like inner tube, I don't know, in their backyard, which to each his own. But he would probably be more criticized and chastised, like, oh, he's immature and like a child. And it's like, but why not? You know, we're so busy. In life, we're so, like, especially in the world now, it's like, to be cool, like, it's I don't know. It's not cool to be cool anymore, I think. But yeah, I think the trick to grow up without growing older is, like, be yourself. Whatever that is. And if you know, and that's why I finally came to the conclusion, I'm not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Now, it becomes bad. I will say this. There are people who take that to an extreme, and they try to hurt you. Like, when people become really, like, overly egregious and mean, because there's people like that. There's people who get killed. Like, the singer, Selena. I think she was Mexican. If she's not Mexican, I apologize. But, or John Lennon, or people that just go, that are really not right in the head, or, you know, the guy Nicholas Cruz, who went and got a machine gun and started shooting at people at Parkland High School. I mean, it can be, like, I'm fully aware that there's people who, they take it to the extreme. If they don't, like, racism, bigotry, sexism. There's people who just don't like you because the color of your skin, or, you know, what you believe in, the religion you believe in, or politics. I mean, there's a lot of discrimination in the world, which I'm not going to get into that, but, you know, some people will not like you for you. Now, have I ever been discriminated against? I will say that there's some times where, which I'm not going to get too much into that, where people, I think, have belittled me or called me a baby, or, you know, indirectly, you know, because I like Disney stuff, you know. Would I consider myself a Disney adult? Not so much as I was before, but I do, there's a lot of nostalgia and memories that I had growing up going there, so, yeah, but I'm not, like, I don't have, like, my house decked out with, like, there's some people that buy, like, Minnie Mouse everything, or Mickey Mouse, like, There's a well, no, actually, I would totally buy a Mickey Mouse waffle maker. Like low key, I would do that. But I don't have like a Minnie Mouse apron. I don't have like I just I think also the music, just because I grew up watching those videos on VHS, they kind of just stuck with me. Um, I will say I did buy a Stitch keychain at this Chinese buffet nearby, which was super cute. I do watch at night, full disclosure. Sometimes if I'm like in the mood for it, I'll watch like a Disney movie on Disney Plus. Um, like I watched Coco before, like, but on my next movie I'm gonna watch is Coco. I recently watched Frozen. I was like, let me watch Frozen again. I watched Encanto. I love the Moana movie. I don't know why, but I love the Moana movie. And plus, it has such a good like moral to the story, because the whole time the demon that they were fighting, it was really the goddess underneath, but she had her heart taken away. The thing that made her like her, she had her heart taken away. So she basically, which was this like little like green gemstone, and she became cold and jaded and bitter and resentful. So they like, once the heart was stolen, Moana was the one who put it back. But it was really cool because the same fire god or whatever, Taka, was actually Tafiti the whole time, but just covered in like soot and stuff. So um so that's that. But I do like, I'll watch Disney movies, like I have no problem. Again, would it help with dating? Probably maybe not, because you tell a guy, oh, and I recognize that, but sometimes, I'd rather be true to myself than be fake. And it's not to say I'm totally a kid 100%. I have sides of me where, like, which I'm not going to get into, but I call it, like, my sexy side. It's not an alter ego, but it's like a, it's still me. It's just, it's like, what's the saying? A lady, which I don't even know. Well, it's not kids screen or whatever. It's for adults. So I say a lady in the street, but a freak in the sheets. I wouldn't say I'm a freak, but I've come to enjoy sensuality a lot more than I did before, and embraced lingerie, which I will. That's another whole nother series for a whole nother time. Um, but yeah. So, but for the most part, I would say. Now, would I be sexy and watch Coco at the same time? No. Because there's a time and a place. But for the most part, my heart is very pure. My mind is sound. My soul is clean. I only get really, like, if I'll become really angry and, like, if someone, like, when people lack honesty and integrity, or they do something malicious and mean, that's when, like, the fire-breathing dragon lady will come out. But more often than not, I'm more so like a sunflower, I guess. I would say if I was my spirit animal would probably be a swan, because swans are very like graceful, but like you bother them, like you get in their space, they will like F you up. Like those things will oh, I don't know if I could say that word. Can I say that? I don't know if I could say that. Well, they will let you know, like you don't mess with, So it's kind of like that. So, but yeah, I think the whole is just be you. Be you, whatever that is. Now, will I condone, like, do I condone people, like, because then you could say, oh, but when I was a kid, I was into, like, super emo, like, Marilyn Manson, goth, like, black eyes with, like, blood going down. Now, that I don't really, like, I'm not really too, a fan, like, there's a certain level, like, I know some people are, like, they gravitate to the darkness, and, like, they're like, oh, I want to be in solidarity, and I don't want to talk to anybody, and I'm emo, and it's like, I don't really think that's, I don't know, to each his own, but well, you know what, I'm going to take it back. I'm going to flip it on its head. If someone is not hurting anybody, if they're just being themselves, like, if I saw someone walking down the street, and they're dressed in all black, and they have, like, well, granted, I will say it will be kind of scary if they have, like, tattoos of, like, the pentagrams or whatever, like people who do, like, the devil worshipping and stuff, that's kind of, like, I will be like, but if they're not intentionally, like, wishing ill upon somebody, if they're just in their world and that's what they believe, then that's whatever. But I will say that if you want to be in tune with yourself, your inner self, like the inner child aspects of you, like, go back to remember how it was when you were 6 or 7 years, 8 years old. Now, some people, I realize their childhoods may not have been as glorious or amazing as mine was, because I really was blessed with them. Now later on in adulthood, things drastically changed. It's like complete 180. like the way that my childhood was at 29, everything just went. Everything I knew about about good people, kindness, honesty, integrity just went out the window. Um, but throughout the whole time since that happened, that incident occurred, or incidents, plural, I never lost sight of who I was. I always said I still maintained my sense of like sunshine, I guess. Because I always say, you can't break my soul, you can't break, you can't steal my sunshine. And I pride myself on that. So, yeah, I would say be you. Do the things that make you happy. Like, I used to bake a lot growing up. Like, just, even if it was just like the pre-made dough. Like, I used to do a lot of like, with these family friends that were close to us, we used to go to their house and do like the Pillsbury or Betty Crocker, Duncan Hines brownie mixes or cake mixes, and then we used to get the correlating like frosting. I know it's probably terrible for you, but it tasted so good. I know it probably has a ton of artificial flavoring and whatever, but at the time, it wasn't bad. But anyways, so I would do that. I used to make there's these Pillsbury, which I'm really sad that they don't have here, because Vermont's very like, it's rural, so the access to certain things might be more difficult or more scarce, but like, there's these little Pillsbury cookies that have these like little characters on them that are like for every holiday, like shamrocks for St. Patty's Day, there's hearts for Valentine's Day, little bunnies and for Easter, and I used to make those all the time growing up. I recently got back into like doing that. I used to do that in high school. I used to make those cookies for the people in high school in my like homeroom class. I remember there were these two boys that their names were the Gabardi brothers, and they were like, and it's crazy because those were things that were innate to me like as a child that I grew up with, and they had never heard of those cookies before, and they thought that they were the best, and they're like, oh my god, this girl, I think they said like, this white girl is so, and I'm like, but if it brought them joy, I'm like, then it brought me joy to make them happy, so yeah, like baking, I never lost sight of that, my love for stickers, my love for notebooks. I carried it with me into adulthood, and it's like, I think, and if people don't like you because of those things, then they're not meant for you. Because the people there's the Dr. Seuss quote, those who matter don't mind, and those who mind don't matter. Like, people who mind your business, and if they're going to judge you and say, oh, she needs to grow up, like, she's not a little kid anymore. I am a grown up. And I am mature, but I'm also in tune with myself. And these things bring me joy. And you look at that person, usually the people who troll other people, who bully other people, it's because they themselves are lacking happiness in their life, so they feel better picking on another person, right? Because they're like, oh, I'm gonna exercise my dominance and control over that person. And if someone were to pick on me and say, oh, she's too childish, she's such a baby, it's like, well, not exactly, because if I gotten into a debate with you and I brought out my academic side, and we could, I could definitely show to you that I'm definitely not all that babyish as much as people would think I am. And that's something too, I don't ever show that off. I don't claim to be I am very, it's funny because as more, I guess, childish as I am, I'm also extremely cerebral and intellectual in certain capacities. Like on certain subjects, I get really into them. Like theology, I used to be really into religion, psychology, love that, medicine, love that. Philosophy, I tried to get into, it's really hard, but the class I took at FIU was it was very challenging, but if I could, which is one of my goals I need to look into more, is Socrates, Aristotle, Plato, those kind of the classical philosophers. I would love to look more into that, but my point is that I can demonstrate, I'm not as childish as I may seem, but I am, for the most part. I'm not your typical average, what your 33-year-old, I'm not the kind of girl that you won't find me at Sunday brunch with a mimosa in my hand with the ladies, oh my god, what did you do this weekend? Oh my god, Brian's being so whatever. I'm not that. I won't sit around gossiping about my husband or my boy. And that's, I'm sorry to say, typically what women at the brunches do. They talk about their husbands and their children and whatever else. I'd rather be at home, like baking something, or I don't know, doing something productive. But that's what those people need. That's their niche. That's their group, Me, I'm more, I just do my thing. But and I don't want to be like mean and doing my impersonation of him, but I've actually, I know why, the reason why I say that is because I was a server at a place that literally had a booming, it was called Bricktops, and it had a booming Sunday brunch, and it was in Coral Gables, and the women, it was like, oh my goodness, I've never seen such a fanfare for a brunch before. The get-ups and the dresses and the outfits, and it was just a restaurant. And the conversations when I would, be on the side taking, something to them or clearing their plate, the conversations that were had were just so menial and trivial in like every way, and shallow. And I'm like, this is what, and that's why I reminded myself, like, oh, this is why I enjoy just keeping to myself. And I like my bubble. I like my space. So, and I don't want to put people down like that, but it's interesting. So, and those are probably the people who would make fun of me saying I'm too, because they're probably not the same women that would like to get down and dirty playing mini golf on the weekend where I would, So, I think they'd be, hi, Bibber. And this is Bonnie Bear. We call Bonnie Bear, I call her Bonnie Bear. Favorite bear. What? Hey, did you want to sit under the desk? You want to sit under the desk? I also think, too, one thing I will say is that people who work, like, with kids and stuff, they're more inclined to be more they're more kid-friendly, like you see. But even so, when I was a child life specialist and I was in the break room, some of the things that I'd listened to the girls talk about, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't relate to any of this at all. Like, and that used to, I used to relate more to the kids, like the patients that I was talking to or tending to versus my coworkers. And I always felt kind of separate from that. But I go, you know what? You have to learn to love yourself, even if like no one else does, because if you don't, it's kind of a travesty and you're doing yourself a disservice, and I used to, I remember, and this is the last thing I'll close with because I'm almost at an hour of this, but there was a moment when I was at summer camp. I don't know if I was 14 or 15 years old. I went to this summer camp called Frenchwoods in upstate New York, and I remember very distinctly that there were cliques there. There were for sure cliques, and this was just a summer camp. But even when it came to summer camp time, everyone like knew who was like the queen bee. And there was one girl, I'm gonna say her name is Laura. And she was actually super nice. The girl, if there was anyone who I can say was the real life version of a Barbie, I'm talking, the girl was flawless. Her hair was like Farrah Fawcett, like curls, and just like, and everyone knew who this girl was. And the reason why I mention this is there's a reason why. Because my brother's girlfriend at the time, she knew some of the girls that were in this group of women. I remember women, young, like teenage. To me, they looked like women because they were older than me. But his girlfriend was friends with one of the girls in this group. And for one, I was going to say semester, for one camp session, I stayed with them. And it's so interesting how the people who you surround yourself with can just change you completely. Like the people, like your social circle they can be your role models, your peers. They could influence your behavior so much. Because I remember, oh my gosh, I went from being like the Ashley that was the humble, down to earth, like more innocent, like childlike, whatever, to being I was in the group. I was in like the popular, group, and they all they did and this is summer camp, mind you, but they all sat at a certain area of the cafeteria hall, the dining hall. They all, even when it was like whatever the girl who was like the main head of the clique was wearing, whatever she was wearing, which was like maybe a wife beater one day with little like athletic shorts that were rolled down, and she was super tan, they would copy her. And even me, like what I was wearing, I would look and I'd see younger girls and they were copying me. It was basically like the real life, but she wasn't that mean. I have to say the girl, she was not mean like in the way that a Regina George would be. Um, so, um, and my point to saying that was I was like completely, I had turned into the opposite of who, like everything that I did not want to be, or the girls that like made fun of me, I became that. And I wasn't mean, but I just remember very distinctly, like there was the opposite. There was the boys bunk who kind of were like considered the popular. Thank you, baby, for your kisses. Thank you. You want to sit under the table? You want to sit under the you can sit under the table. Come on. Come on, sit under the table. No? Okay, that's okay. I love you. And I remember very distinctly like the boys, uh, thank you. Bonnie's distracting me with giving me kisses on my foot. Um, yeah, there was a boys bunk who was kind of like the same wheelhouse as that, and I remember like we hung out with them, and I'll never forget one of the boys was like he slept I was 14 or 15. He was like sleeping on my shin. One of them even like I was lying down on the grass and he slept on my belly, or his head was on my stomach, and I was like, oh my god, this is what it feels like to be cool or pop, you know. But at the same time, these girls were also the same ones who were like 14, 15 years old doing God knows what sexual activities with said boys behind the cabins and or in the bathrooms or, you know, at night. Like, so my point is that, but I wish I had a picture of myself at the time, but I remember I was like in photos, like making these little faces, and I had all this makeup on. Like, I remember I had this, they had this eyeliner pencil from MAC that was like blue, and I became obsessed with it. So my point is that I had changed myself to be liked by these group of women or girls or whatever. And I was in the group, like I was in the popular group, right? But I wasn't happy. I wasn't being who I was because I was putting on a mask to be liked. And I had to be cognizant of what I wore. I mean, and it was summer camp. It wasn't like it was like we were in New York City in like a high fashion internship. It was like summer camp. It was mud. It was supposed to be dirt. It was supposed to be fun water balloon fights, sports, kayaking, hiking, like stuff like that. And I was sitting there dressing in like, what outfit am I gonna wear? Oh, I want to wear the bandeau top, but I want to wear the stuff on top of it. And I neglected. I turned away from the things that made me like me, that were innately me. Like, you know, and I did that because I wanted to be cool. But at the same time, I sacrificed my happiness because I wasn't being who I was. Yes, I was liked, and it's funny because I was very liked. Little girls were like, "Oh my God, you're in the same bunk as like Laura, whatever." Like, "Oh my God, like what is it like in there? Do you guys?" And you know what? I'll be honest, it was like inside the bunk itself, the cabin. One of the girls thought she really ran the show, who was actually the best friend of the girl. Her name was Nikki, and I'm not going to give too much because I don't really know what these people are up to, and I don't need them coming after me. Like, oh, this girl started a YouTube channel, now she's sharing about her life, and oh God, I don't need that to happen. Are you doing pee-pee off the mat? Okay, well hopefully it doesn't go too off of it. It's going a little off of it. Okay, well anyways, but yeah, it wasn't even that fun. And then the year before, the other bunk I was in, where I was with other girls my age, and we were just kids, like, it was fun. We would play Uno, we would do board games, you know, I guess we would be considered like the nerdy bunch, right? But that was more me, and I was happier. Now granted, I was really homesick, and I was like heaving and vomiting, like dry vomiting, right? At one point, but in fact, when that happened, one of the girls there, I can't remember her name. Oh my God, God bless her soul. What was her name? Katie? Elizabeth? I forgot her name, but she helped me out. But my point is that you never want to sacrifice the things you love or who you are to be liked. And I could very easily, if I wanted to, you know, and let's get real talk time now, right? And I don't want to put people down who do, I don't even know if I could say this on YouTube because they can flag it, but certain adult activities, right? Like there's a certain site, which I don't know if I can mention that. Can I say it starts with an O and F, but I'm I basically have gotten to the point because of something that I've gone through a few years ago where it drastically affected my finances. Hi, Bibber, come here. And I basically was almost like broke, right? And some would say, oh, do this, do that, do that instead. And I go, but that's not who I am. And plus, any activity that's like more adult in nature or risque, like if I'm gonna do that, like it's normal stuff. Like I would say, what's an appropriate term for you? Fornication, I guess it's called. Like engaging in that kind of activity, I'd rather it be with somebody that I care about or somebody that I'm interested in or attracted to, but in the privacy of my own home. I wouldn't want it to be filmed. I wouldn't, and I know some people, they do that and they enjoy it and that's what they make money off of, but that's not what I want to do. But I could be light, I could be making money, I could be doing all this, but I chose to take the higher road. And so and one of the things I leave it with, there's one of my favorite quotes is by somebody, former first lady. She said, when they go low, you go high. So if anyone, and that's really like applicable to anything in life, because there's so many people who are going to go so low, well, so low, like solo, but like really low and try to hit you where it hurts. Like I've literally had people indirectly insinuate or intimate that I'm a child or that I need to grow up, or like from coworkers to even my own mother. I think at one point there was something that I wanted. Oh, there was a phone case, I think, and it had this cute little bear on it. And she's like, Ashley, remember, you're like 30, you're 30 something. And I was like 31 or 32 at the time. And she's like, no, But I was like, but that's me. That's what I liked. It's not what you want. It's what I like. So yeah, people are going to criticize you. If you like I haven't really bought anything from Hello Kitty in a while, but like that's what I like to do. And if someone's going to pick on you because of that, think about it, that they have to take time out of their day just to say something demeaning or criticizing to you. Like that's horrible. Like you have to feel sorry for people like that to some extent. Right? Right? What do you mean? I don't know what she wants, but she wants something. So that's how I go about it, and I don't claim to know it all, but I have been through a lot, and I have been bullied, by people I never thought I'd be bullied by. Some are strangers, some might even be really high-level people that I don't really want to disclose, and I don't know their names. I have an idea of who they could be, but it's people that in organizations you never thought would ever bully anybody, but they do. People that are supposed to protect people, they do. And you have to smile. You can't give up, and you be you. You do the best you can. And if that's not good enough for somebody, then guess what? They're not good enough for you. If someone's gonna pick on you, then let them. It comes a point where you want to be defensive and you want to be like, but no, that's not me. It's like, but then if you're defensive, it looks like you're guilty of something, right? So it's kind of like there's almost a point where you just want to be like, okay, if you think I'm that way, I'm going to let you think that. I'm going to let my actions speak for itself. I'm going to let my character speak for itself, right? And that's kind of how I go about life. And yeah, I think the trick to grow up without growing older is to be you. And, well, not to just be you, but do the things that bring you joy. That if you went back to your childhood self or if you took a glimpse back in time and you remember when you played in the backyard with the hose or like a sprinkler and it was summertime and you ran through the thing, or you had like a water slide in the backyard. I don't know, I never had that, but like I've always wanted it, but we never had it. I think it was kind of dangerous actually because you could like slip and fall. But if you want to go to a park one day, like that'd be a really cute date. If someone, like, you go to a park and there's a swing set and you sit on the swings and you just swing and you talk. How many people would do that? Probably not many. Or you go to a theme park, ride a roller coaster, like that would be a really expensive date, especially if it was Disney World. But like those are the things that, you have to do what makes you happy and brings you joy. even if it means you stand alone doing it, even if it means you get ridiculed, because wouldn't you rather be like happy and alone than miserable and like populate like with a bunch of people? You know, I wouldn't want to be like that. I wouldn't want to have like a bunch of friends and followers, like people who it's all just shallow and surface level, and like, but you wear a mask and you're afraid to be who you are because you don't want to be deemed like childish or weird. Like, oh my god, and that's another thing I need to make another video about. If like, if you can go back in time and talk to your younger self and just like tell yourself what you know now, I would have been like, oh my god, enjoy doing your ballet class, wear your hair in a bun every freaking day at school, and if they make fun of you, like I literally was made fun of and told that I looked like I had cancer because I used to wear my hair in a bun for dance almost like every day in middle school. And I remember one of the boys, and it was someone I liked actually, and he was like on one of the sports teams, and he said, "You look like you have cancer," and I was like, oh my god, like how insensitive and shallow can someone be? But I don't know what he's doing now as a profession, and I don't really care, I don't want to know, but yeah, but you know what? I would have back then. I would have said, wear your hair in a bun, like screw it, be yourself, let them, because think of how miserable someone has to be to pick on somebody else. You know, that means that they're not happy with themselves, and they should probably take a cue from your book and do this, like, run through a sprinkler one day. I don't know, like go on a water slide. Run a marathon in a tutu, like wear a silly, like like there's marathons I think where you can like run in an outfit, like themed runs, like do that, but some people, like I said, they feel better at picking on other people because it makes them feel stronger and smarter, and they're not, they're just really sad, or they're trying to provoke you or get a reaction out of you because they thrive off of your, I don't know, fear, or they thrive off of making other people feel insolent, like, or small or inferior, which, right? You stand up for yourself. So I think I've learned to come a long way, and if anybody, if you're like me and you felt that you felt different or you got made fun of because of the things that make you special and unique, like maybe you love to knit, maybe you love to crochet, like there's these cute little, like, I don't know how to crochet or knit, but there's like a whole knitting community where you can like crochet little like animals and stuff. Maybe you love to garden. Maybe you do love Legos. Maybe you have like a collection of, like, maybe you're into anime. I don't know. Like, I never really got into anime, but there's the closest I got, there was like Pokemon, like the Pokemon cartoons. There was what's it called now? Sailor Moon. Sailor Moon was like, oh, was Gundam Wing? So Gundam Wing was, like, really big when, again, I had a brother, so, like, that's what he was into. So all the things that he watched, I kind of watched. So, like, there was a show, Go Speed Racer, but those are not really anime. But anyways, I digress. But anything that makes you uniquely you, and that other people would say, oh, but that's weird, there's going to be someone else, I guarantee, out there who probably loves the same things as you. You just probably haven't found them yet. So, you breathe, you take a second, and you say, you have to celebrate the things that make you unique, because that's what makes you special. As long as you're not hurting anybody, as long as you're not wishing ill or, like, doing, like, death spells or, just you do you. Maybe you like to volunteer at an animal shelter. Maybe you like to coach kids on the weekend. I don't know. Like, maybe like, there's like, if you were in like Little League baseball, and let's say you're like 40 years old and you're an adult and you're a man, and you want to get back into like baseball. You're like, hey, let me volunteer and coach like a Little League group of kids or whatever. And let me tell you, if you are a 40-year-old man and you do that, there's a lot of ladies who would find that really attractive. So, because that shows that person's empathetic and compassionate, and they care about kids, and, there's a lot of good qualities that comes with that. So, versus the guy that's like, yeah, I'm super rich and I go to clubs every day and I drive a Lamborghini, like, no. Give me, like, the more wholesome, like, down-to-earth, like a guy that can barbecue, make a really good hamburger, isn't like super ostentatious, and like cares about kids and the planet, bro. and will let me have my pen collection. Like, bro, we're solid. But I think the main point is the trick to grow up without growing older is to do things that make you happy, that are uniquely you, and not give a crap about what anyone thinks about it. That's all I would really say, is because you will get made fun of because some people are just really miserable and they don't know how to control their emotions, and they weren't taught how to be mindful. You know, the golden rule is like, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. They weren't taught that. Maybe they weren't raised with manners. Maybe they didn't have role models growing up. You know, a lot of people that are bullies and stuff, in fact, it's usually the people that are bullies are people that were hurt. Either their fathers were neglectful, or their fathers or mothers like fought. Maybe they were a victim of domestic abuse or violence, you know. Because generally happy people, like I said, they don't hurt people. It's the people that are hurting or were hurt that bully other people because they feel more powerful picking on another person, which I didn't mean for this video to turn into like a whole PSA on how to survive bullying. But it was more so just like, are you trying to sit with me? What are you doing? I'm sorry, my dog is like, I really hope she gets better. I should start like I wish there was like a prayer community for like animals. Her lymph nodes are swollen, which, because in medicine I worked in healthcare, I understand a little bit, which obviously a swollen lymphatic system indicates an infection, right? Because that's your lymph nodes are the things that have the white blood cells that are immune, like that kill off things like cancer or an infection or something. So her body, I guess, is doing something to fight off something. So we'll see. And in Vermont, I don't know. Vermont is a very interesting town because, like I said on my walk yesterday, because I was filming, I vlogged my walk, which if you're interested in seeing what Vermont is like at sunset, you know, because I walked yesterday around like 7 something and the sun was setting, and it's very different from Miami. It's very rural. The housing looks different, you know, the architecture, and it gives you good perspective on what life is like outside of where you grow up or you grew up. But I don't know, you know, Burlington is the hub of things. It's more metropolitan than where I am. But in terms of animal care, I don't really know how good animal care is gonna be. Even though the people that I first went to, when they seemed really endearing and helpful, but apparently the diagnosis was a bit off. So we need to find people that will do the right diagnosis for you, right? Yeah. But that's it. I think that's all I have to say. And what else? I feel like I should close out with like a prayer, like, you know, it's not a yoga class, so I can't really. It's more just like an informational like video, right? But I think that would be my advice is be you. You're not, you know, there's that whole, that's one thing I want to address, the Peter Pan syndrome, that the fear of never wanting to grow up, right? Of staying young forever. You don't want to grow up, you don't want to do the adult things. I think there's when you reach a certain, I don't want to say milestone, but stage, right? There's a thing called ages and stages in child development. When you reach a certain stage in your life, that stage comes with its own set of like characteristics and challenges and milestones and stuff. And that's why I think we're created to go through that. That's why certain theorists created developmental like stages and scales and whatnot. And once you master that stage or you move forward to the next one, you know, it's not to say that you're not going to always so in child development it's called continuous and discontinuous. So, you know, when it's a continuous, there's not really this delineation between a concrete stage, right? Like versus continuous is like it's almost like on a spectrum, whereas when it's a certain stage in your life, it's like, okay, you're in this stage or whatever. But I think honestly, you know what, we all go back to moments in our life where maybe we regress in behavior. You know, we might revert back to like our childhood selves, you know, as a coping mechanism. Who knows, you know? You might withdraw from society a little bit. You might, you know, like if you become depressed, you sleep all day, or, you know, you become more antisocial or less talkative, and that's okay, you know? That's part of life. I just think there's no right or wrong way to do life. I think, you know, we just, you do the best you can, and you can't be afraid to stand out or be yourself, whatever that is, you know. Whether you like to go fishing, I can't say I'm the biggest like fish expert or that I would like to go fishing, but like it's just, I'm trying to relate, you know, to the men out there, if there are men that end up watching my video, you know, because I'm a woman and I realize I can't really speak to the male experience, but guys have it hard too, you know. Some guys, you know, might be into like, what's a thing that like I said, building Legos, collecting cards, maybe you're really into like science, I don't know. That might be something that men nowadays might be like, oh no, but that's stupid, that's, or gay or whatever. Like that's not, no. That means that you're just somebody that's intrigued or curious about certain things or passionate about them, and you should let that passion carry over into your adulthood. And if you don't, I kind of encourage you to do so, because you might realize things about yourself that you didn't know before, and you actually might maybe cure your depression, cure your anxiety, because those things that maybe you shunned or maybe were like belittled or chastised for, you know, let's say you I don't know, what's a good I'm trying to think, if I was a dude, like what would be something that other guys, okay, like let's say something that's a more feminine activity. Let's say you're into gymnastics, or let's say you're a dancer, you know, let's say you danced growing up, let's say you were a guy and you did ballet, or you're a guy and you like tap dancing. I don't know. Like, go back and do tap dancing. Like, and if your friends don't think that you're cool because of it, then guess what? They're probably not your friends anyways. Because wouldn't you want to be surrounded by people who support you and encourage you? And if you have nobody in your life, like let's say you are a guy and you do ballet, or you like tap dancing, or you like to watch Marvel Avengers superhero cartoons at night, and your friends are out playing hockey or playing golf or going fishing, and you're like, but I don't really want to go fishing. I don't, you know, that's okay, because I'm here to tell you that I support you. And, you know, weirdos, not say weirdos, like nerds unite. Which is like, nerds, there's nothing wrong with being nerdy, I don't think. Right? I don't think so. I'd rather be a nerd and happy than be like miserable and like angry doing things that don't resonate with me. But that's just me, so. Yeah. Or maybe you're a guy and you like to write poetry. I don't know, I just saw my books over there. Like, maybe you're a guy that, you know, you like to write poetry at night, and, you know, people would say that as P-U-S-S-Y, or like really like G-A, like I want to say G-A-Y, gay, or like more emotional. It's like, okay, guess what? There's going to be a girl, and if you, or maybe if you are gay there, and you, maybe there'll be a guy who will fall for you, or maybe if, you know, if you're not gay, there may be a girl who might go, hey, oh my god, that's so cool, you write poetry, let's go to a poetry slam for a date. I don't know. Or if you're a dude and you're like, hey, you meet another guy that's, you know, likes poetry, or maybe writes prose or writes books or stories, like whatever it is, I think you just have to be you, right? Because life's too short not to be. You only get, right, if we're lucky, right? You know, I remember there was it my nana who said that? Like, once you turn 21, it, like, life goes by really fast, right? And when you're 50, you're gonna wish you were 20 again. When you're 60, you're gonna wish you were 40 or 30, and when you're 90, you may wish you were 50. And once you reach that peak, unless you feel really whole and comfortable in yourself and you're okay with aging, it's gonna be really hard, you know, to remember and go back and like enjoy that moment. And I would say that it's better just to be yourself and enjoy life as it comes, because literally you don't know what tomorrow brings. And like I said before, with each stage that you reach or you acquire, you master, there comes with it this new set of milestones and learning opportunities and lessons. And tomorrow you could, like, you could pass away tomorrow. You can transition to non-physical tomorrow, and then you'll never be able to eat a cookie again. Those Legos that you wanted to build, that maybe that Lego collection you came out and you're like 40 years old and you're like, oh my god, but the Star Wars Lego thing came out and I wanted to make the helmet, the stormtrooper head, but I didn't because my buddy said like it's stupid, and you're like, but I really want to. You're gonna regret that. And your people, I think, and if you say, but how are you an authority to say that? Well, I've gone through a lot. It's well within my soul. I know I'm not perfect by any means, but I'm content where I am. Maybe not like situationally like in Vermont, and there's a reason why I'm in Vermont. That's a whole other story, but it's one thing in yoga we say is, I used to close every class with, I'm happy, I'm whole, and I'm enough. And I remember one of my coworkers, she told me, she's like, Ashley, how do you say that? I don't feel that. And I'm like, what do you mean? Whatever. Like, how do you mean you don't feel that? And she's like, but I don't feel enough. I don't feel whole. I don't feel happy. And I'm like, well, why? And she's like, I don't know. And I'm like, maybe if some of you are struggling like with depression, with anxiety, and let me tell you, there's circumstances that I can't really speak to. Like, I don't, like for example, like my dog Bonnie, she may be really sick. She may be gravely ill. Like, I don't know. I have to figure it out, but I'm ready to deal with that. And, there's going to be circumstances that are not going to make you happy. They're going to cause you grief and sadness, and you have to sit in that. And you're going to overcome it, and grief becomes easier. But while you're at it, and while we're in this thing called life, you owe it to yourself to do things that bring you joy and bring you happiness. And if someone's going to pick on you because of that, then they're not meant to be around you anyways. And if they take it legally, where they try to threaten your life, I like to think that, like, karma is a thing, and we're all responsible for that, and it'll come. Like, what goes around comes around, and I don't sit back and go, oh, they're going to get karma for whatever. They choose. People choose how they want to live. A bully wants to be a bully, they're going to have to live with the ramifications and consequences of doing that. People who cheat, people who lie, people who steal, they will have to deal with the ramifications of that. They may, like, I always look at, like, which again, this is kind of going on a side tangent, but like Al Capone, he was like a mafia mob boss extraordinaire, right? They couldn't catch him for any of the things that he was suspected of doing, but they caught him on like tax evasion or something. So I look at it like that, and it's not to say like a bully, like just a whatever, like a non-threatening, but everyone will end up, there's what goes around comes around. And life is too short to sit back and be like, I'm not going to do the things that I love because I'm going to be ridiculed and scrutinized. If you like me, I love little, obviously I like stationery, but if you like little Post-its in different colors, get the Post-its. If you like stickers, buy stickers. If you're a dude that writes poetry, write poetry. You can be the next lyricist for a Broadway musical. You can be the next lyricist for a big time like composer, rapper, or music producer. I mean, there's so many things, and I think a good example of that is like Lady Gaga. Her name, Stephanie. I'm gonna say her real name, Stephanie, right? She, from what I understand, she was bullied a lot. I think they threw her like in a trash can, which is horrible. And she has amassed this huge following. I mean, I used to listen to her all the time. I think she has an amazing voice. And when she did the movie A Star Is Born, oh my God, I was like, wow. I was like, this girl is so talented. I'm like, how could they bully her? But people did. But now it's like, and she amassed this group. I think she calls them her little monsters. I don't know, from what I remember. Like, I remember she had a monster ball. Like, she basically, my point is, she found her niche. She found her people, and there's people who love her, and even, especially, she's really big in the LGBTQI community, and people love her. She found her people, and I don't know if she's happy or sad or miserable. I don't know what that woman is like. But what I will say is that there's always somebody for everybody, and then your people will find you. And if you're alone, and if you don't have anybody, that's okay. I think that's your ripening time. That's the time, because I am faithful. I do believe in God. I think that's the time the universe is like well, I need you to stay to yourself because there's people who really maybe are wolves in like sheep's clothing, or people that will take you and try to use you or whatever. So I'm going to kind of isolate you on purpose, and but I will have your back through that time. So that's kind of how I see it. And we are social creatures by habit, and it can be hard living alone or being by yourself, but I do believe that there is a whole other world. That's just my belief and my thoughts. There is a whole other world or dimension or whatever where people or spiritually or whatnot, and I revel in that. And yeah, maybe we can't see that, but I know, I'm pretty sure that they're there. So when I like to say, oh, I'm alone, we're really not alone. So, and sometimes when you think you're alone, there's probably someone out there probably like going through something similar to you, or maybe even someone praying for you, who knows. So all that I know is that, like, be you and do what you love. It sounds really cliche and like something you'd see like on a Home Goods like plaque, like when you're walking in Home Goods, it's like live, laugh, love, and you're like bro, if I see another live, laugh, love thing in Home Goods, I'm like, oh my god. Because really life is like, it's so far from, and I'm not trying to say it in a cliche way, but it is true, is that you have to hold on to your humanity, and you have to be yourself and do what you love, because life is too short not to, make the Lego thing, go fishing. If you're really, like, there was a guy on Instagram who's really into like wildlife and fishing, and the guy literally, he gets paid to go around in his van and like shoot videos of like wildlife. I'm like, what an amazing job, like you can't get any better than that. He doesn't have any, like, no coworkers, it's just him, and he gets paid. Like, that's amazing. So there's, someone may look at your thing and call it like a dumpster fire. They might look at your life and be like, oh my god, that's such trash. Like that, like for me, they might go, oh my god, that girl's so like childish, and she likes these like stupid things, and she's so Christian and so whatever. And I'm like, well, I'm like content within my soul. It's clear that you're not. So I don't know. So yeah, I hope that helps somebody. That's why I said the trick to grow up without growing older is to be yourself, love what you do, and if someone ridicules you for that, then guess what? You just either move away from them or tell them to take a hike. And if they don't like you, I used to, when through a situation that I went through, which one thing that I will say is that, I won't dim my light for anybody, and if they don't like it, they better buy some, they better invest in some really good shades, because I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna change myself to make someone else feel better, especially if I'm not being mean or malicious. I'm just not. So, whatever it is that you like, do that. And if there's something that you loved as a kid that maybe you're kind of scared to go back to now, maybe that's your inner child calling out to you saying, hey, remember me, when we were 5 years old or 10 years old, and, this made you really happy, maybe you should do that again. Even if you're 40, 50, 60, I think you can be older in age, but you can be young at heart, like rich in spirit. So, like, literally, there was a lady I just watched yesterday. She was like 100 and something years old, and she was like grandmother. They called her the dancing Nana, and she tap danced. And I'm like, bro, she looks like she's freaking 80 years old or 70 years old, and she's 102. And she does tap dancing, and she was really good at it. And Al Roker was trying to keep up, and I'm like, bro, this lady's like showing up, like up, So, and she probably did it as a little girl. Hey, look, and she's alive to 102, so there's something, scientifically that speaks to that. So, maybe to stay young at heart, you do the things that bring you joy. That'll keep you young and alive. So if you don't care about the spiritual, emotional aspects of it, maybe you'll care about the scientific ones, because maybe there might actually be some correlation between doing activities that you love, that are joyous and, fruitful and fun for you and satisfying, that may increase your longevity. So that's my sell. That'll be my sell, that if you don't care about like the emotional aspect of it, of feeling good, like doing something that you did when you were younger to make you feel better now while you're older, maybe that's the key to vitality. Like, I love to dance, and I love, you know, ballet and stuff, and it's something that I grew up doing. Do I plan on becoming like a famous dancer? No. Am I better than any dancer that I see in those videos and that are in LA? Heck no. Um, do I ever plan on becoming like a Broadway performer? No, but I do it because it makes me feel happy, and it's also good for my memory too. Um, so yeah, I hope that helps somebody. And with that being said, I think, sorry if my armpits were sweaty, I don't think they were. Have a lovely day or night, because it's Saturday, and I'm going to upload this now. And, um, and if you watched it, great. If you don't, that's okay. Maybe someone will watch it later on. Because sometimes, I always say that when I used to watch like tarot videos and oracle card readings and stuff, the readers used to say it's not so much, maybe the timestamp might be from like a year ago or 2 years ago, but that message was meant to find you now. So maybe my message is not meant to find you until 2 or 3 years, maybe 5 years from now, which is great, because that means if I touched somebody's life in some way, like positively, then great, then I did my work, then I'm good. And if you don't watch it, it's not going to make any difference to me, as long as, you know, maybe if it helps somebody. So that's it. And as for Bonnie, she fell asleep. And I'm going to not procrastinate, and I'm going to make what am I going to do? I need to do dishes. I also need to do this other kind of, I guess it's freelancing work, to call out to people for this transportation company that I actually used while I was here in Vermont. And yeah, as a favor to them. And I think that's it. But be you, and do the things that make you happy, because life is too short, even if it seems silly and weird. And if people bully you, then guess what? You smile at them, and you say, nope. You say, I'm not going to let what you say or do get me down, because life is too short. And you could die tomorrow, and then, so I'd rather do the things that make me happy and bring me joy than not. So